Oprah's disappearing documentary, advertising, and price increases. This is TV Plus Talk on MacVoices.
Hello, we're back with the new, maybe improved, but definitely more regular TV Plus Talk. I'm Charlotte Henry from The Edition. He's Chuck Joyner from MacVoices.
Charlotte, it's great to see you. Thank you so much for doing this. And I love the idea that we're ramping the frequency up because Apple TV Plus seems to generate plenty of things.
Totally. We've got two very big stories and ideas to talk about this week. But I agree with you. Things seem to... Well, as we keep saying, you and I started this show just because we were interested. It was interesting to see how Apple would do TV, movies, streaming. And now, however many years down the line we are, we're 5 years into Apple TV Plus? 4? It's a big player now, and there's a lot going on, and there's a lot to discuss. People seem to enjoy our discussions, so we're going to have them a little bit more regularly. And if nothing else, you and I get to hang out more, which is really what this is all about.
Exactly. And, we should mention that we've had a fair amount of feedback, both of us, on these shows, and we really, really appreciate that. So if you have thoughts on our thoughts, we'd love to hear them. If you have thoughts just without us on Apple TV Plus, please drop us an email. I'm Chuck at MacVoices. Charlotte, your email is?
I'm Charlotte at theedition.net, and I would absolutely love to hear from you on this show or anything else I discuss and cover. It would be great to hear from you guys. Well, should we dive into it? Because there's a couple of big topics to discuss. Let's start with news, and then we'll come on to views, if I can put it that way. A couple of weeks ago, not long after we published our previous episode, Page 6, which is part of the New York Post, isn't it? The gossipy version, part of the New York Post, the celeb version, ran a story that said, exclusive, Oprah Winfrey bought back rights to Apple documentary about her to stop its release. Now, first of all, let's not worry too much about how much Oprah had to spend on this. I think she'll be okay. Let's start with that. But this is interesting on a number of levels, which is why you flagged it up to me. So the film was meant to be directed by the Oscar winner Kevin MacDonald. He teamed up with Lisa Espama, I'm sorry about my pronunciation, who has a long time produced for Oprah Winfrey. And then apparently Oprah didn't like the film, and that was the end, and it hasn't been out, and and she paid back Apple, apparently. This is kind of interesting on a lot of different levels, not least because you and I both remember the launch of Apple TV Plus, which Oprah was a huge part of, wasn't she? That Billion Pockets Your video. There was so much about her. And now, is she pulling back from TV Plus? She certainly doesn't want this film out there. It's kind of interesting, isn't it?
I think it's real interesting. And as we said pre-show, when we were debating how to present this, we don't want to get into conspiracy theories or any of that. It's just the idea that the film was made and she had paid basically, given the rights away, and she now was willing to buy it back and lock it away. And so you have to wonder what the contents of the film were and why. And as you said, then you sort of merge that in with that she seemed to be what we all thought was going to be kind of a key player in Apple TV Plus. And that never really completely evolved or developed. And so to your point, does this signal just a complete parting of the ways, or is it just a parting of the ways on this particular film?
So it's definitely project specific, but we should know, and Engadget did when it was writing up this story, that actually Oprah Winfrey has already stepped away once from Apple TV Plus because she ended the deal with them that she had in 2022. That was about that. Do you remember that show, The Oprah Conversation, all that stuff? That ended in 2022. So she really has, over the years, really moved backwards from it.
And so, look, I'll say right up front, I'm not a big Oprah fan, so I haven't watched this as closely as maybe some folks do. But I also feel like she may have been pulling back from a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons. she still has that visibility that when somebody says Oprah's going to do this, oh my, Oprah's going to do
Oh,
this.
yeah.
But that said, she doesn't have the Daily Show anymore. She seems to pick and choose things, which is her prerogative for someone at her stage
She
of her
is 70
career.
and very rich.
Yeah, and her success level. So, I think it's interesting.
Seriously.
But one can't help but wonder if this will ever see the light of day. It probably won't. And why? What was it about it that she didn't care for?
Yeah, I just can't see that it's ever going to see the light of day. Deliberately, she's decided she doesn't like the movie for whatever reason. So she's given Apple the money back, and that's the end of that. There's no way that we're going to see this.
Yeah.
And I wonder, actually, if we'll ever really see any link-ups now between Apple TV Plus and Oprah. I feel like that's sort of come to an end. That was the initial big kind of showy launch for TV Plus, and now it feels to me like that whole thing is at an end.
And I don't know about you, but I can't really figure out why, because it feels like Apple TV Plus has delivered on so much of its original promise of telling quality stories. And, unless you just think that she or others thought that they were all going to be very, very highbrow and very, very deep and meaningful. And they've decided they have evolved into something that has a bit more broad appeal in different, and choosing to do so in different categories. But I don't.
I have to say, whatever criticisms you want to make of Apple TV Plus, and we do tend to make them, Chuck, you and I think the one thing you can't doubt is the sort of production and quality of the content, even if you don't enjoy watching it.
Oh, absolutely. And
so I don't see that should be the issue. I just maybe Apple decided it can move on. Oprah is, look, she's still a superstar, but there are hotter up-and-coming figures, right? There's people moving up. Maybe they want to focus on that. Listen, I don't want to disparage Oprah. I wouldn't dare. But, maybe they're just looking for a different thing now.
Well, and I think we can segue this discussion, into the other news that was recently announced that Apple is going to put a bit of a budget on their movies, as opposed to some of the ones we talked about that were so large and so expensive, and that really.
So Martin Scorsese spent all the money, right?
Well, I wasn't going to call any names, but okay. So I have to wonder if maybe Apple has learned a little bit of a lesson that, short of superhero movies or a lot of special effects, maybe you don't need those huge budgets to tell some great stories.
Yeah.
So.
I think possibly they may well have been burned a little bit by Killers of the Flower Moon, which I don't know what you think. For me, it cost a lot of money, and I don't think it made the impact that type of money would justify.
I look, I've not seen it, so
That's the point.
Yeah,
you and I have not seen it. Have you heard huge amounts of conversation about it?
No. Except in the awards areas where this actor was great, or the costumes were great, or the cinematography was great, but the story. And taking nothing away from the story, because I don't want to get emails. That's not the point. The point is, how broad an appeal did it have? So,
and look, it did win some awards. It won Film Critics Awards. It won, Lily Gladstone won a Golden Globe for Best Actress. There's no denying that it was a critically well-received movie. Lily Gladstone won a couple of awards, actually. But for the amount of money it spent, I'm not sure it was the thing that drew people to Apple TV Plus that they wanted it to.
You used an interesting phrase there, critically acclaimed. And it seems like a healthy portion of critically acclaimed movies aren't necessarily popular movies. And popular movies aren't necessarily critically acclaimed. So, who were these movies being made for? I know you and I have a little bit of a disagreement over Napoleon. I didn't think it was a great movie.
We don't have a disagreement. I just, as a matter of principle, won't watch something that's 3 days long.
I'm not sure it's 3 days, maybe 2.5. Um, but I listen. I enjoyed it. I have not taken the time to go back and watch the new extended version, but I thought it was a good movie.
Like, Chuck, life's too short.
Yeah, it wasn't a great movie. It was a good movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Not sure it's going to get put in the rewatch pile, and that one cost a whole pile of money as well. So did we?
Yes.
Did we really need those? I mean, they were spectacular battle scenes, and
Sure.
can't imagine what it cost to. Well, I guess we can't imagine because we know what the budget was. So it's just crazy.
Yeah, it was a huge amount of money. I also wonder, just turning back to our first story, I wonder if, the ending of the deal in 22 with Oprah, now they've had this movie buyback as well. I wonder if some of that about, the changing dynamics of that relationship is also about Apple trying to be a bit restrained in what it spends. Oprah, it doesn't come cheap.
No, but okay, for other projects. I mean, the movie itself, the movie was paid for, it was made, and Oprah bought it back.
Sure, she's just bought it back.
So, that was a wash. I as a director, I think I'd be more than a little bit unhappy that I just spent all this time crafting this documentary that as a director I'd be very happy with, and suddenly it gets shelved, never to be seen.
Absolutely. Also, I mean, from a personal perspective, I'd be fascinated to see a documentary about Oprah. I think her story, and I'm fascinated by her.
Well, that's the difference here. And, it's we have on this show a man and woman. We have U.S. and U.K. We have different demographics here. And, great. If you're interested in it, that's terrific.
I just think she's a fascinating media figure. A brand Oprah I find fascinating.
Yeah.
But we're never going to get to see the documentary, sadly. Yeah. What do you think? Okay. Do you think Oprah had to call Tim Cook and be like, Tim, I'm really sorry, I don't like the movie. Here's the check.
Well, okay, I give Oprah credit for having a lot of power. And so if she was that unhappy with it and willing to pony up the money, yeah, she may have, or her people did. So it was not a huge loss for Apple. I also have to think that Apple TV Plus looked at it and said, it'd be better to get the money back.
Well, that's the interesting point. They didn't have to do the deal. That's a very interesting point.
Yeah. So.
Apple, it takes two to tango, right? They didn't have to accept the money. They could have said, this is so brilliant and so important that we have to have it out there. We don't care how much money you want to wave in front of us.
Right. So I can think of two reasons. Either they didn't think it was going to be that great and so they were happy to get the money back, or they didn't want to invoke the ire of Oprah at whatever power level she has, or maybe a combination of both, and just said, fine.
Yeah, I suspect it's a bit of a combination.
Walk away.
Very, very interesting. Just before we move on, I want to tell you something also exciting. I just below the Oprah story then, Gadget, they have the story that Apple TV is going to make the 3 classic Peanut specials free to stream. You're not even going to have an Apple TV plus subscription. So that's very exciting. Obviously, it's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, a Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, and a Charlie Brown Christmas. Obviously, we're moving towards the time of year where those 3 are perhaps of some relevance. So you're going to be able to watch those on Apple TV Plus for free, which is rather nice, isn't it?
For a limited time. They're but the time frames. And of course, if you are an Apple TV Plus subscriber, you can watch them anytime you want. You can celebrate July 4th with them if you want. But the idea, I love this because there was a lot of controversy when Apple sort of obtained
people were not happy.
They were really not. And Apple has really stepped up, I think, and recognized these are now holiday classics. And
it's so interesting. These were not a big deal in the UK as far as I can tell, but they're a huge deal in the US.
They are. I mean,
and
I've seen them over the years, I'm not going to say every year, but plenty of times. And, that they fall into that, the holiday movies that at some point we'll probably talk about, It's a Wonderful Life and those kind of things. I think we're
not talking about Christmas yet. I'm absolutely intervening if you start talking about Christmas.
Well, I'm not ready to yet. We still have Halloween and Thanksgiving to get through,
No.
but
So just on your point of the limited time of these free shows, you're absolutely right. So it's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, going to be free on October the 19th and 20th. Charlie Brown Thanksgiving, November the 23rd and 24th. Charlie Brown Christmas, free on December the 14th and 15th.
But and for the people that criticize that and say that's not enough, when these were on broadcast TV, they were shown once per season. Maybe
they were on PBS, right?
CBS, I believe, and maybe there was one that might have been shown like twice, but I don't remember that for sure. But so broadcast, it was appointment TV. If you wanted to see this, you had to sit down at that time and watch it. Now you have all those time periods to just punch the button and watch it as you wish with whoever you wish. So in some ways, it's actually better than it was.
Yeah. And anyway, lots of people, when someone buys you a lovely new iPhone, you get a free year or free 3 months, whatever it is now, and you can watch them whenever you want. But yes, so there'll be for 2 days each month for October, November, December, the relevant Charlie Brown special, Peanut special, will be available for free, which I think is rather lovely. And actually, it's quite a nice segue into the main kind of thing, although we've been talking quite a lot already, that we want to chat about, well, I certainly do, which was this really interesting article I saw. It seems to be on Tech Hive from Macworld. It's written by Ben Patterson, anyway. And it's this idea, which you and I have touched on plenty of times, because it's one of the big discussion points about Apple TV Plus, is it going to introduce advertising, and what is it going to do about pricing? And those two obviously can be very interlinked. So Ben's article, pointed at a few different possibilities. What's your take so far? I'll give you mine in a minute.
Charlotte, I can say this about all the streaming services, that if I'm willing to pay, and they set the price, if I'm willing to pay it, then I'm paying for no advertising. I think I'm not just paying for access and then having the advertising supplement the provider. And so I would be hugely disappointed if they introduced an advertising supported service. That said, if you want to provide an advertising supported tier, that's fine at a lower price. That I have no problem with that.
Here's the interesting thing. Ben is not sure it will be free, and I think I have some sympathy for his argument. Sorry, not free, but they might do what Amazon did and keep advertising tier at the current level and make you pay more for no ads, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and if that's the way the market is going, that's fine. Look, the prices on everything are definitely going up. And so,
yeah. So he, again, sorry to interrupt, but he also speculates you could have $12.99 for that. Yeah, $12.99 for an ad-free tier. So you're paying like $3 more a month.
Yeah, so that's
more to get rid of the ads.
So $3 is $36 more a year, and so again, the way I look at it, you do the math, you figure out how many hours of enjoyment you're getting out of this, how many hours of entertainment. And then balance that with what you get from Netflix, Paramount, any of the others. Balance that out against what you can get, although the entertainment is not necessarily current, from something like Tubi or Pluto TV or whatever that is ad supported, and you're not paying anything for it. And then figure out what works best for you. But I don't mind paying for a premium service. And if the premium price is a little more, then the premium price is a little more. But at least give me that option.
So I really agree with you about the first thing you said, which was, basically if I'm paying, I don't expect ads. Now, obviously there is kind of TV packages that, live broadcast TV, Sky in the UK, cable in the US, whatever, or Freeview in the UK as well, where we pay for stuff but also get adverts. We do accept that. But I think streaming, I've said this to you, I'm sure, and I've written it before, Streaming, to me, this deal it seemed to be was it's not going to be cheap, but it's going to be, not crazy expensive, but you're going to have to pay a meaningful amount of money each month or each year. But you, in return for that, you get high quality content and you don't see adverts. That seemed to be the deal with streaming. And I think all these services are slightly breaking that deal. And I think, for example, on podcasts, and I would say this, wouldn't I? For me, the deal is it's free, it's accessible wherever you want it, but you might have to listen to a couple of ads, hopefully products that are interesting to you, the listener, and endorsed by the presenter. I think that's also a fair deal. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think those were the deals we were initially used to, and I'm happy to kind of stick to them, right? And yet, the streamers, Amazon, Netflix, possibly now Apple, seem to be breaking their end of the bargain.
Okay. So, well, first of all, we're going to stay away from podcasts because that could be a whole separate discussion.
Of course, but I'm just making the comparison.
Yeah. So maybe when this was all new and everybody was trying to figure out how much, in fact, I think is the case, when everybody was trying to figure out how much revenue would be generated from these services and versus what it was going to cost to produce or create or operate these services, the math was done and they thought, okay, this can happen. And now the return on investment is not where they want it to be. In fact, it's pretty clear that some of these services have been losing money for a while. And so in order to survive, they have to up their game and up their prices, and frankly, up their game as well, because now there's more competition than ever. I mean, when Netflix was all by itself, the only thing it was competing with was cable. And now it's competing with a whole lot of other options, including YouTube, which also is ad supported, or you can pay for a premium service if you want. It's the way the world has gone. And so I get the point about the breaking the contract, but you know what? Broadcast TV broke the contract too, because it used to be you had 4 or 5 minutes of ads per hour, and now it's horrifying how many ads are with the little bit of broadcast TV that I watch, and I mean I watch very, very little. I'm just shocked at how many ads there are, and
I think that's different in the US and America.
Probably so. Probably so.
Again, I would emphasize I don't have a problem as a matter of principle obviously with media funded by advertising. I really don't. I think that is a perfectly reasonable model that everyone can buy into. But I don't think TV streaming was meant to be that. I actually have I've tested out some of the free streaming services in the UK. There's one called You. It has a whole load of old TV and stuff on it. There's plenty of adverts in it, but I don't pay for it. I accept that there's adverts there. Okay, that seems a perfectly fair deal to me. But it's about, I think it's about respecting your viewers and your customers. It's about offering the best quality of product, right? Not having, making sure that you can pay for good quality content, and also making sure viewers can watch it in a, not uninterrupted, but, way that they expect, in a clear way. I think, the odd pre-roll ad, okay, that's one thing, that's not a huge problem, but, interrupting a drama, halfway through the morning show having an ad break would probably be quite annoying, right? When I paid $9.99 a month for it as well.
No, but if the program, I can't remember. I'm sorry. No, was it Hulu? I don't know. There was one service that picked up a lot of the old advertising. This is early on in the streaming streaming situation, where they would pick up old content, and then they would just randomly, at a given moment, right in the middle of a sentence, they'd drop in an ad. And as opposed to the way it was when network TV was done, where the productions were done so that the ad breaks could be kind of put in logically.
Fit it.
And so that's where I see. that's why I don't think I'd have a real big issue as long as the ad breaks are put in intelligently and aren't, interrupting the content other than the fact that they're interrupting the content.
And you can pay to not have it.
And I could pay to not have it would be my ideal.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure it would make me cancel something. I wouldn't. I was just pondering actually as you were talking, would I cancel my TV Plus subscription because there were adverts, or would I pay for the new? What would I do? Would I cancel? Would I pay for the more expensive version? Would I keep it as it is and have ads? It's an interesting question. I suspect I would keep the package I have and, have adverts.
Okay, so let me throw out two other ways to look at it. All right.
Please.
And for any of these streaming services, all right, what does it cost you per day to subscribe to that streaming service? And this, I'm going to use an example that's going to, I guarantee, upset people. So here it comes, folks. But I see ads on TV for, well, this dog food is better for my dog, and it's only so many more cents per day. Only so many more cents per day. And so, and oh, my dog is worth it. All right, well, how much is it worth to you to have all that content on that service available to you? The other thing is, if you look at it as spending a premium dollar to buy back time that you would otherwise waste, and it's hard to be productive or get anything done in an ad, during an ad. There's not enough time. So if I can buy back 14, 16 minutes of a given program by not having to watch the ads, I mean, I'm buying back some time. And so that concept appeals to me a lot, because then now I've got 14 to 16 minutes that I can go and I can actually do something in 14, 16 minutes.
So you're saying you would rather not have adverts, make the show is 42 minutes instead of 58, 59 minutes. Has more value to you.
If I value the content in the first place, yes.
Sure. But I'm taking that as given.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, there are times that I will, I don't mind saying that there are times I will put on Pluto TV in the background, and the adverts are the adverts, and, fine. On some old show, Star Trek, that, I'm happy to, yes, I know, Charlotte, that I'm happy to have on,
like Star Trek.
and that's great. It doesn't bother me. Maybe it doesn't bother me also because those were produced with those acts in mind, so that it doesn't destroy the flow of the show.
Yeah, and I think there's also a really interesting consideration, particularly for Apple TV Plus, right? And you and I know this is people that have podcasts with adverts, hopefully, sometimes. We care about the quality of the companies that work with us and we advertise, right? And that's important to us because it tells you something about our show, that we want to work with good companies on those adverts. And I guess Apple will feel the same, right? Like, it's got to maintain a standard of the brands it works with.
I would hope so. And that would feel very Apple-like, as opposed to just going out and grabbing money. And I know you and I...
It will be really interesting to see.
Yeah, you and I are represented by the same organization, and we get opportunities to approve or not approve the possibility of having an advertiser. And, I know we've both turned down things that, would they have been lucrative? Well, lucrative is relative, but it would have been nice to have. But I can't see it. It doesn't fit my show. And it doesn't fit my comfort level of having you on as a guest, not on TV Plus Talk, but just on regular MacVoices, and saying, okay, basically, we're going to take a break and talk about this. And it just doesn't work. I would be embarrassed to then have you go back and look at your interview and say, oh my God, I'm being associated with that product.
And this is the thing, right? Apple is so brand conscious that it would be really interesting to see who it would work with.
And does that mean that Apple would command a premium? Would the advertisers pay more to be on Apple TV Plus?
There is no way that they wouldn't want to do premium stuff. No way. It's got to be premium bands.
Well, I would think that they would. Anybody wants to have their product, no matter what it is, perceived as premium. So
anyway, this is all very interesting. I'm really fascinated to see where this goes, because streaming does seem to be, whether I like it or not, moving into the ad-supported era. So it's going to be really interesting to see where we go with that. But of course, this is no done deal yet. So it'll be really. I suspect this is not the last time we have to discuss this topic. Just to wrap up, have you been watching anything good, enjoyable on Apple TV Plus that you want to tell our listeners and viewers
Charlotte,
about?
I would love to tell you something I've been watching, but I haven't been watching anything. Life has been more than a little busy in the last month, and so I am so far behind on everything. I have my watch list. Slow Horses is right up there at the top, but I want those are the. See, this is an interesting point. Those are the kind of things I want to give quality time. I want to sit and pay attention and not be doing something else because they are so good.
Oh, no, you've got to sit and watch properly, Slow Horses properly. That is, I have to say, what I've been working through. I'm on just coming towards the end of season 2 of Slow Horses. It is brilliant. I absolutely love it. I'm so pleased it's on TV Plus. It's great. It's a really fantastic show.
So maybe we just identified we're right back to it. The thing that pulls us to Apple TV Plus is the quality of the shows if you value that content. I know we've agreed on a lot of
great shows.
Yeah, we've agreed on a lot of content. We don't always agree on all the content, but we both agree that what is there is quality and that it deserves your time.
There's plenty of stuff that I think deserves my time on there, and we'll see if advertisers are brought in and if they agree. Chuck, where shall we keep up with you away from TV Plus talk?
MacVoices.com. That's where you'll see everything I do. We do a live show Tuesday nights. We'd love to have you in the chat room at youtube.com/MacVoicesTV. And Charlotte, we have a brand new website at MacVoices, including a new
It's very shiny.
Yes, it's I stayed up all night polishing it. And we have now a blog too that gives me another platform to share some of my random thoughts about tech, as well as some other things. So go and check it all out.
Looks great. I really like it. And I'm pleased that there's even more Chuck Joyner for my money. I'm very, very excited. So good luck with building the blog. I'm at Charlotte A. Henry across social media. Head over to theedition.net where there's blogs, podcasts, and newsletters from me. Newsletters are paid for premium products. I hope you will jump in and enjoy that as well. We cover all the crossover of media, culture, sport, bit of tech in there as well. So I hope you enjoy that. We'll be back in the not too distant future with more TV Plus talk.
Thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with MacVoices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.